There comes a point in life when you get tired, not physically, but emotionally. Tired of being hurt, tired of being misunderstood, tired of giving your all only to feel empty. You've been there before. You gave someone your trust, and they shattered it. You poured your heart into something, a relationship, a dream, a friendship, only to walk away feeling used, forgotten, or worse, broken. And somewhere deep inside you told yourself, never again. I won't let anyone hurt me like this anymore. But time passed, and it happened again and again. Different people, different stories, but the same pain. Why does this happen? Why do we keep finding ourselves in situations that drain us, tear us down, and leave us questioning our own worth? Carl Jung once said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul." Let that sit for a second. It's not just about what others do to you. It's about what you avoid doing within yourself. You see, most of us live life on autopilot, reacting to pain rather than understanding it. We repeat the same toxic patterns in relationships, attract the same emotional wounds, and fall into the same emotional traps. Not because we're weak, but because we haven't stopped to face the part of us that allows it to happen. Imagine this. You keep dating the same kind of person, even if you know they're no good for you. You keep biting your tongue around people who disrespect you just to keep the peace. You keep sabotaging opportunities for growth because deep down, you don't believe you deserve more. That's not just bad luck. That's your unconscious mind running the show. And until you face that, you will always be vulnerable to the same pain in different disguises. Carl Jung's work wasn't about self-help in the way we see it today. It was about deep psychological transformation. He believed that true strength comes from confronting the darkness inside us, not hiding from it. This video isn't about building walls. It's not about pretending to be emotionless. It's about becoming so aware, so grounded, and so deeply in touch with who you truly are, that nothing on the outside can destroy you anymore. So let's go deeper, because what you're about to learn isn't just theory, it's a new lens to see your pain through. And once you see clearly, nobody and nothing will ever hurt you the same way again. 1. Pain doesn't come from others. It comes from within. Carl Jung once said something deeply revealing. The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. Think about that. It's not others we fear the most. It's ourselves. It's our own wounds, our own shadows, our buried fears and stories. They are what truly haunt us. When someone criticizes you in front of others and your blood boils, ask yourself, why does that hit so hard? Is it really about them embarrassing you? Or is it because deep down part of you believes what they said might be true? Let's say you're in a relationship. Your partner withdraws emotionally. You feel hurt, unwanted, even panicked. But if you go deeper, what's actually happening? You're not just reacting to the moment. You're reacting to years of feeling not enough. You're responding to that moment when, as a child, your emotional needs weren't met. And now it's happening again. Jung believed that our inner world gets projected onto our outer reality over and over again, until we finally turn inward and face what's there. This is why two people can go through the same situation and react completely differently. One gets devastated by criticism, the other laughs it off. One gets crushed by rejection, the other sees it as redirection. The difference isn't the situation, it's what lives inside them. Jung taught that our past isn't really the past. Not until we process it. Not until we take responsibility for it. Not until we accept ourselves completely, even the parts we hate, reject, or try to hide. Let me give you a real-life scenario. You're working hard, trying to prove yourself, overachieving constantly, but you're also burning out, anxious, and resentful. On the surface, it looks like you're just ambitious. But what if, beneath it all, you're still chasing the approval of a parent who never said, "I'm proud of you"? And every time your boss criticizes you or your efforts go unnoticed, it stings, not because of the now, but because it reopens that ancient wound that says, "I'm never enough." This is how the unconscious rules your life. The truth is, others don't create your pain. they awaken it. They trigger what's already buried within. And this is where freedom begins. When you own your pain, when you stop blaming the world and start listening to what your emotions are trying to tell you, when you treat every trigger not as a threat, but as a teacher, that's when you begin the true journey of healing. Because in Jung's world, healing isn't about being unaffected by the world. It's about becoming so aware of your inner world that no one on the outside has the power to break you. 2. You are not hurt. Your ego is. Let's strip it down to the truth most people aren't ready to hear. You're not actually hurt. Your ego is. And there's a massive difference. That sting you feel when someone ignores your message, that wave of anger when you're not invited to a gathering, the silent pain when your effort goes unnoticed, that's not your soul crying out in anguish. That's your ego, feeling small, rejected, and invisible. Carl Jung once said something profound, yet often overlooked. The bigger the crowd, the more negligible the individual. You see, the ego constantly craves recognition, applause, validation. It wants to stand out. It wants to feel important, special even. So when someone treats you like you're not special, the ego panics. Let's bring this into real life. Imagine you've been working overtime, putting your heart into a project at work. But when the team celebrates, someone else gets all the credit. Your name isn't even mentioned. You go home frustrated, maybe even furious, thinking, why do I even try? Why does no one see my worth? Now pause. Is your true self actually diminished by their oversight? Or is it your ego screaming for recognition? Here's the twist. When we tie our value to how others respond to us, we give them silent power to validate or destroy us. And the ego is the perfect puppet for this game. It rises and falls based on others' reactions. But Jung taught that the goal of psychological growth isn't to inflate the ego, it's to integrate it, to recognize it as just one part of us, not the ruler of our reality. Another example, love and dating. You're texting someone new, there's chemistry, good conversations, and then they vanish. No explanation, no goodbye, just silence. You start to spiral. You replay every conversation. You question your looks, your words, your value. But again, what part of you is actually hurt? The deeper, calm part of you knows you're still worthy, that you're enough, with or without them. But the ego, it's wounded, because it took their approval personally. Now imagine this. What if their ghosting didn't shake you at all? What if you simply saw it as their limitation, not your inadequacy? That's when you begin to reclaim power, because ego thrives in drama, but the soul finds peace in detachment. And when you train yourself to recognize when the ego is speaking, you also learn how to silence it when it gets too loud. That's the freedom Jung was pointing toward. A life where your worth is no longer up for negotiation, where pain becomes a messenger, not a master. Because once the ego stops running your life, you're no longer a prisoner of people's opinions, rejections, or silence. You become unshakable. 3. Projection. How others reveal themselves, not you. Let's get one thing clear. When someone lashes out at you, criticizes you, belittles you, it says far more about them than it does about you. But most people don't realize this. They internalize the comment, replay it in their mind, start questioning themselves. Am I really like that? Did I do something wrong? Why don't they like me? Carl Jung had a piercing insight into this exact behavior. He once said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. But what's often missed is this. It's not just about your reactions to others. It's also about how people project their inner chaos onto you. In Jungian psychology, projection is a defense mechanism. When people are unable to face something within themselves, an insecurity, a flaw, a shameful desire, they unconsciously throw it onto someone else. Let's say someone constantly calls you arrogant. You pause and reflect, am I really? But maybe you're just confident, composed, clear in your boundaries. The truth? They might feel small around you. Your self-assurance reminds them of their own insecurities. And instead of facing their lack of confidence, they call you arrogant. That's projection. Or consider the co-worker who always accuses others of being lazy. Notice how often that person avoids real work. They're not seeing you. They're seeing themselves in you. Their complaint is a mirror. Now here's a lesser-known but incredibly powerful quote from Jung. We always see our own unavowed mistakes in our opponent. Think about that. The gossip who accuses others of being untrustworthy? They probably betray trust. The friend who's quick to label others fake? They're hiding a version of themselves they can't even face. When you truly understand projection, you stop being a sponge for other people's emotional baggage. You stop believing every accusation. You stop over-explaining yourself. You observe, not absorb. This doesn't mean you ignore all feedback. Of course not. But there's a difference between constructive feedback and projected poison. Real feedback feels grounded. Projection feels emotionally charged, inconsistent, and personal. Here's how you can spot projection in real life. When someone overreacts to something small, when they bring up an issue that doesn't match your character or actions, when they attack you for something they themselves do regularly, when the criticism is vague but emotionally intense, when it feels more about their pain than your behavior. You'll know it when you feel it. It hits your ears, but not your soul. It feels off, like a stranger screaming your name in a crowd. Once you develop this awareness, a powerful shift happens. You no longer feel the need to defend yourself every time someone throws shade. You see them clearly, not as enemies, but as people wrestling with shadows they haven't yet owned. And in that moment, you become untouchable. 4. The power of conscious detachment. Most people misunderstand detachment. They think it means caring less, becoming cold, or pushing people away. But that's not detachment, that's avoidance. True detachment is not about feeling less. It's about not letting your feelings control you. Carl Jung put it this way: the best political, social, and spiritual work we can do is to withdraw the projection of our shadow onto others. In other words, stop giving away your emotional power by expecting the world to heal you, understand you, or validate you. Let's bring this home with a real example. You're in a relationship, and you find yourself constantly anxious. You worry when they don't text back fast. You feel unloved when they're distracted. You become reactive when they don't mirror your feelings. What's happening here isn't love, it's emotional attachment. You've outsourced your emotional security to another person's behavior. But when you practice conscious detachment, something powerful shifts. You don't stop caring, you simply stop clinging. Instead of thinking, why didn't they reply fast? Do they still love me? You shift into, I'm feeling triggered. Where is this fear of abandonment really coming from? You begin to examine your own patterns instead of trying to control someone else. This is what Jung meant by withdrawing projection. You stop blaming the outside world for the storm within. Another example. At work, your ideas get overlooked in a meeting. Your first instinct might be anger or self-doubt. But detachment teaches you to pause, observe, and respond, not react. You ask yourself, is this really about me? Or am I letting old insecurities define this moment? You step back and realize you don't need approval to validate your ideas. That's power. That's emotional independence. In family dynamics, it's the same. Let's say your parent says something hurtful, something they always say, before it would leave you spiraling. Now you see the pattern. You understand they're projecting their pain, not describing your worth. You no longer need to argue or defend yourself, because your peace no longer depends on being understood. This is the heart of conscious detachment. You still love. You still engage, but you stop bleeding every time someone touches an old wound. And that, right there, is how nothing and no one hurts you the same way again. Jung's idea of individuation, becoming whole and self-aware, requires this exact shift. Not abandoning people, but abandoning the belief that your worth is determined by how others treat you. Once you embody this, you no longer react, you respond with clarity. You no longer chase, you attract with calmness. And you no longer suffer, you learn and grow. 5. You hurt because you resist. There's something we all do instinctively. When pain shows up, we try to push it away. We distract ourselves. We numb it with scrolling, drinking, overworking, anything that keeps us from sitting alone with it. But here's the paradox. The more you try to run from pain, the louder it gets. Carl Jung understood this deeply. He once said something rarely quoted but incredibly powerful. We cannot change anything unless we accept it. Condemnation does not liberate, it oppresses. Let's break this down. If someone betrayed you and you keep telling yourself, I shouldn't feel this way, I should be over it, you're not healing. You're condemning your feelings. And what happens when you lock something away in a box? It doesn't disappear, it grows in the dark. Let's take a real-life example. Imagine a man whose partner left him, out of nowhere, no warning, just gone. He tells everyone he's fine, posts gym selfies, says, she didn't deserve me anyway. But deep down he's shattered, and because he won't sit with the grief, the fear, the self-doubt, it starts leaking out in other ways. Anger at small things, distrust in future relationships, sabotaging anything that feels too good to be true. That's resistance. And resistance turns temporary pain into permanent patterns. Now let's look at someone who does the opposite. They sit down, maybe journaling or in therapy, and say, this hurt. I feel abandoned. I feel unlovable right now, but I know this is a wound speaking, not my worth. That's acceptance, not weakness. And the moment they allow those dark thoughts to rise to the surface, they stop controlling him. The moment you allow the pain to exist without resistance, the moment you face it without flinching, it starts to lose its grip on you. This is what Jung meant when he emphasized integration over suppression. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. The way out is not escape, it's integration. When you look directly at the source of your pain, with honesty and courage, you become stronger than it. And suddenly, what once hurt you begins to teach you. What once scared you begins to empower you. And the people who used to control your emotions? They lose all power. Because here's the raw truth. Whatever you refuse to feel will eventually shape your life from the shadows. It'll influence your relationships, your self-talk, your decisions, without you even realizing it. So when you notice yourself spiraling after someone hurts you, when you feel anxious, irritable, or numb for no clear reason, ask yourself, what pain have I been resisting? Sit with it, name it, let it speak. And suddenly it begins to lose its sharp edges. It's one thing to understand that pain comes from within, that the ego is fragile, that projection reveals more about others than about you. But how do you live it? How do you become the kind of person who doesn't break under pressure, betrayal, or emotional chaos? Carl Jung didn't just describe the human psyche, he gave us a map to navigate it. Let's look at 4 key practices that translate Jung's teachings into daily habits. 1. Practice shadow tracking. Every time you overreact, judge someone harshly, or feel triggered, pause and ask, what part of me is reacting right now? What am I defending? This is shadow work in real time. For example, imagine you're in a meeting and a colleague interrupts you. You feel instantly angry, like your blood is boiling. Most people blame the other person. They disrespected me. But Jung would challenge you to go inward. Why does this moment bother me so much? What part of me feels unseen? Is it touching an old wound from childhood where I was ignored? By doing this, you stop being a victim of your reactions and start becoming the observer. And when you observe, you regain control. That's real strength. 2. Separate the ego from the self. Here's a practice that will change how you experience pain. When you're feeling hurt, embarrassed, rejected, or judged, remind yourself, this is not my soul speaking, this is my ego reacting. Jung taught that the self is whole, wise, and centered. The ego, insecure, competitive, always trying to prove something. Let's say someone criticizes your appearance or your work. Instead of spiraling, breathe and say, interesting, my ego feels attacked. but my deeper self knows my worth is untouched. This small shift in awareness builds something powerful: emotional resilience. You're no longer tossed around by every opinion or situation. 3. Develop conscious detachment in relationships. This doesn't mean becoming cold or distant. It means learning to love without needing to possess, to care without losing yourself. Let's say you're dating someone and feel anxious when they don't text back. Instead of letting that fear consume you, Jung would suggest you reflect on what's being activated. Ask, am I fearing abandonment because of a past wound? Am I making their silence mean something about my worth? Detach from the need for control and certainty. Return to yourself. Ground your peace in who you are, not what others do. Over time, this kind of detachment makes you unshakable in love, business, friendships, everything. 4. Embrace the inner opposites. This is Jung's big idea, individuation. It's the process of becoming whole by embracing all sides of yourself. The brave and the scared, the light and the dark, the loving and the angry. You stop chasing perfection and instead aim for integration. Here's how you apply it. If you're always the nice one, try setting a boundary this week. If you're always the tough one, allow yourself to be vulnerable and ask for support. Every time you do this, you reclaim a lost part of yourself. And the more whole you become, the less the world can throw you off balance. As Jung said, wholeness is not achieved by cutting off a portion of one's being, but by integration of the contraries. The takeaway so far: to become someone no one can break, you must stop resisting pain, face it. Stop taking attacks personally, observe your ego. Stop chasing peace outside, return to your inner self. Stop trying to be perfect, integrate your contradictions. This is not about becoming bulletproof. It's about becoming so whole within that nothing on the outside can shatter you again. When you start doing this work, real shadow integration, ego observation, detachment and wholeness, something subtle but extraordinary happens. You stop reacting. You start responding. You don't take things personally anymore. You stop waiting for validation and start radiating from within. People sense it. The way you walk into a room changes. You no longer seek attention, yet you command it without saying a word. That's because your energy shifts. You become less hungry, less desperate for love, success, or approval, because you've already made peace with yourself. Carl Jung believed that this is the true power of individuation. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And once you do, no one and nothing can hurt you the same way again. Someone ghosts you. It stings, but it doesn't break you. A failure knocks you down. You learn from it, not collapse under it. Someone insults you. You see their projection, not your reflection. You've reclaimed your emotional center. You've taken your power back from everyone and everything that ever had a grip on it. That's inner freedom. It doesn't mean life stops testing you. It means you finally know who you are, and you're no longer afraid to stand in that truth. So now the question is, will you continue letting your unhealed past control your future, or will you finally turn inward, face your shadows, and become the kind of person the world can no longer shake? If you're ready to break the cycle of self-sabotage and step into the powerful, unbreakable version of yourself, declare it in the comments. Say, I reclaim my power. Let this be the moment your journey inward truly begins. And if this message resonated with you, like the video, subscribe for more raw psychological deep dives like this, and share. Because becoming whole doesn't happen overnight. But it begins with one decision: to face the truth, no matter how uncomfortable, and grow anyway. We're on this journey together. Let's go.